Good evening, everyone. It is July 16th, 2023. Now, I stated this on the weekly outlook, but perhaps I need to repeat it over here, and that is that what I'll be looking for overall this week is a move down tomorrow, Tuesday, and perhaps Wednesday as well, down to the 44.97 to 44.75 area. This area is where I'm talking about. So essentially the 4 p.m. price close down here around 75, up to the weekly VWAP close at around 97. So I want to see at minimum a move down here, followed by the move up to 46.02. That'll be my goal on the week is 46.02. So that'll be the number I'll be looking for us to rally into for OPEX. So tomorrow, breaking that down, what does that mean? Well, to the upside, we know that price tends to trade within the first or the second standard deviation of last week's VWAP on Mondays. However, given the enormous range last week relative to what we're used to, that means the second standard deviation is way up at 45.84. So that means it would not be completely out of the realm of possibility for this thing to trade upwards. However, I'm going to remain a little bit short biased, especially now that we're trading below yesterday's low of the day currently during this overnight session. We're just diddling around it. So what I'll be looking for is to figure out a way to get short for a move down to at least that VWAP close, sitting at 44.97, I think in a quarter. I think that's where it's sitting at roughly. 44.97.5, there we go. About one tick off. Now, on the way down there, we usually only make about 25-point range days. We might have a little bit of a larger range if we are heading downwards, as markets do tend to have a staircase up, elevator down. So what I'll be looking for is perhaps something more like 30 points. It's hard to really ask for that on a Monday. Perhaps the day after we can get something like a 30 to 35 point range day, but tomorrow I'll be looking for just kind of like that 25 to 30 point range. So assuming we trade at least down to yesterday's low of the day, would be looking at something around kind of this 45.10. Perhaps we find a bit around here for 20 points, or down to 4,500-ish, that'd be 31 points. So I doubt you'd be really looking at much more. If we were to close that gap, we'd be looking at far, far lower. We'd be looking at something like a 50-point day. So that's why I'm looking to find bids here, somewhere around here. And if we really start moving down, sure, I'll still be looking to buy it up, especially if this ends up being the low of the week. Again, going back to that higher time frame plan. Now, I am willing to be a buyer here. That is after a tag of 21. If the overnight low does not break. So if the overnight low comes down lower, somewhere down here into this 18-17 area, if we run 21 during the RTH, that being this Thursday low of the day, if we run that low and come back up into 25s, where we auction for like 2.5 hours this day on Thursday, I'd be willing to take that auction low long. I'd be willing to take 25s long for the re-entry into yesterday's low at 31. I'd be long for the move into 31 and then into probably, I imagine, would end up testing at least this major level here at 42s. So it'd be looking like something like this. You'd be looking at a range somewhere around here, and then I imagine you'd get a sell somewhere here unless we were to drift up. Because my thesis of us moving down to 97 and lower may be incorrect, so it's important to keep your eyes open. Now, to the upside, I'm willing to be a seller. If the overnight low is broken, I'm willing to be a seller. I will, regardless, be looking at a possible short at 48s. But for the most part, I'll only be taking these aggressive shorts at 42 and 46 in the event the overnight low is broken, and then likely the overnight high is not going to break. So instead, I'd be looking for a range where the overnight high is somewhere around here, around 50. And if we come down to here, and then during the RTH, we're up here, you know what? I'll be probably taking my shot at that against the overnight high. Now the NQ, not too different. Pretty similar story that we're playing with here. If we get a run of yesterday's low of the day during the RTH, and we come back into this range, I'll be looking to take this long here. 685.75. We had a nice offer there on Thursday during the run-up. Bid. There was also a smaller bid here. Can't see it. Bid. there was a small bid here, and now you can see that as being a level once again. So I'd be looking for the long somewhere around here for a move back into somewhere around here, kind of the 700-ish number. The weekly close, I believe, came in at 704 or something like that, 703. Up above, you've got settlement highs at 740, so I think you'd kind of come into somewhere around here, kind of the 7, you got a bid off of here at 723, somewhere around 720 to 740 I think is where you'd end up. Or we keep moving up and you start running into these resistance areas. 766, it is a nice level. That's also where we had the VWAP close on the session, and considering we dumped into the close, there's a good chance you have some trapped longs up there, some late longs. Get some selling. I'm willing to take that short. Same thing with 803s, that being the 95% weekly value area high. Ooh, maybe got my number wrong. Nope, 803 and 3/4. Yes. This was also kind of where this was an interesting spot to me. That's where we had an offer show up. That's where we kind of were churning around. You can see offer, holds bid, and then eventually sells down below. So this is an important swing point for me. Up above there, I don't want to be really engaging with the market. I think you're getting back into that only bids scenario. The second standard deviation of last week's VWAP coming in at 928, way up here. I don't really know what happens at that point. I think the 2022 high of the year was somewhere around 16,000. So I don't want to end up fighting this thing if it does just keep going up. But again, I think we're going to have this downside scenario, long 609s, and that's just simply taking this high of this auction that we were having, taking that long after a tag of the auction point of control at 597s. Below there, taking 550s long after a tag of 507s, that being the gap close at 507. Below there, getting long at the gap close if the 444 area holds. That is the daily close we had that day. Or sorry, that's the weekly VWAP close at 444s. Way down here. That's where weekly VWAP close was. So getting long 507s after that. As that could be the low of the week. I don't know. Long video. My bad. But overall, I want to be looking on the short side a little bit, but I will be trepidatious. I'll be willing to be a bit more aggressive on the long side, especially if this overnight low stays intact. Even if we make a lower overnight low. As long as the overnight low remains unbroken, I'll be looking to get long for the most part. I think on a Monday, we tend to be rotational, and given the momentum we currently have, it's probably best to trade the long side. Perhaps Tuesday we get a better sell-off, or Wednesday. Anyway, hope that makes sense, hope that helps. Updates before the open. Have a good night. Trade safe.